Alright, so I'm going to make you an official video on using the little hot stapler here. This time I'll get it plugged in. What we're going to do is we're going to fix this. This is a shifter bezel. You see it's got a pretty nasty crack in it right there. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You know, these things are not perfect. You know, you can see there's a blown out hole there, but I have a fix for that as well. So first thing we're going to do is we just kind of take a towel and some regular old glass cleaner, and we're just going to go in here and just kind of clean this area up real good where this is all cracked. And then the second thing we got to do is we have to figure out a way to make this thing pop back into place. And a lot of times what I find is they've been broken so long that they just spring back as a crack. So you got to figure out a way to hold it in place. So it looks as though it's probably going to have a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to have to hold it in place. So hopefully you'll be able to see all this. Anyway, so we've got our little unit here plugged in. Here's our staples. Like I say, they're spread out a little bit so that you just put them in there as a little bit of interference fit. And then we'll just go in here and I'll just hold this in place. Hopefully you can see, there's a little bit of a dark area here. I've got just about where I want that to line up. It's not perfect again. It's just going to be, sometimes you can actually go in there and super glue it, but I don't like the fumes, so we'll see if this will get through there. And like I say, we just got to let it sit for a second. And like I say, it's still not quite perfect. See if I can actually retune this thing as well. I can put it back on there and reheat it. If I can get that a little bit. I'll just hold on to it and see if I can get it to right there. That might be about as good as it's going to get. See, yeah, it doesn't catch as bad, so let's see. We'll just go ahead and get a few more staples in there and just fix all that. Get you right up close and personal here so you can kind of see what's going on. Light turns red, that means it's heating it up. Get it in there a little bit deep. That way it kind of works a little bit better for you. And then also you notice that there was a crack leading away from this right in here. Let's see if you can see that. There it is. There's a little crack coming away from there. I think I'm going to put just a piece in there. Going to help hold that in place. I have no clue where I'm going to get these staples when I run out. China, I guess. And I went down and bought one of those little cheapy sets of cutters. I think there's 5-piece. But these are pretty nice. You can just kind of get them in there. And you can kind of snip them off. Because these off as best you can. Alright, now let me show you another trick that I was going to do. I didn't show you as much the other day. So I've got a little knife type edge here with a soldering gun. So I want to show you how I use that. Alright, so now that the soldering tip is hot, you can kind of see this crack right in here, and of course I've got those little staples in there. But also what I want to do is I try to put these all together, and I just get this plastic hot and try to fill that gap up just a little bit. And you can kind of form it and then dump it down inside there and just kind of get it hot. And this will help to kind of bind it as well. It'll help it to get you a little bit more life out of this plastic, considering a lot of these plastics that I work with are just no longer available. Manufacturers stopped making them. So I use this kind of stuff. You can actually go and buy a plastic welder. There's an Air style, and then there's another one that's pretty popular too that looks like a big soldering gun. And also there's a little bit of a gap down here on this stem. This is where the screw goes. There's a little gap in there, so it must be cracked. So I can take and pull a little bit of that plastic down and kind of hold it in there, and then just scrape it up inside there. And if I'm careful, I can kind of patch that hole up a little bit. It takes a little practice to do this, and I'm still not perfectly good at this. Make sure that it's not showing too bad on the other side. And then another thing you can do too is I like to cannibalize certain areas, like let's say right here. Take that little piece of plastic that's kind of pushed over right there. Take that, and I'll use that as welding filler, and I'll get that down inside here. And you can also refer to my video on that Honda XL600 where I kind of used this same type of a technique on the speedometer housing. It's kind of the same thing, where you're just basically going in here and kind of gluing all this together, and then we can actually use glue gun. But in order to use glue gun in this, you've got to actually mark this up so it has a place for the glue to stick. So as you do that, then you take your glue, which I've got a little bit of it here, take that and I'll get it hot, and I'll get it right down inside there and just basically weld that into place. Try to make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. This white glue actually kind of turns a little bit milky, almost kind of reminds me of cheese. So like I say, you can see kind of how that's flowing together. And in order to get you a big chunk of it, you just burn it off of there. And what I do, and I just kind of let it ooze out of there like cheese. And then this other piece right here, where the staples are, and I'll go ahead and run a little bit of that stuff in there and just kind of give it just that much more strength. Use a glue gun as well, but I'm so used to just kind of using my little soldering torch here. Sometimes I'll use open flame, but you got to be careful with open flame because it'll really give you problems if you're not careful. Make sure you get it down in there and try to get all the air burped out of all these areas. That hot glue gets down inside there and it'll help to really stick. Got that, and we'll just let that sit there and cool down. Looks like it's good on the other side. And then right here we've got a problem where this is broken. This is where the screw goes in, and they're supposed to look like this one here where the screw has to reside on the inside. This one's broke, the screw will pop right through. So the way I do this one, try to even it out just a little bit. So I'll take and cut all this with my soldering gun and just kind of make it as flat as possible. Then I take these little hardware washers and I'll stick one of those down inside there. And this is the same way. You want to try and get some of this plastic folded over here kind of hold it in place as best you can. You're able to see some of this anyway. It somewhat liquefies it. Almost like sculpting it back into place. And I don't, doing this with a farm truck, this is absolutely a waste of time. But for, let's say, a 67 Camaro or something similar to that, where it's hard to find the original parts for it, it might not be a bad idea to kind of use a technique like this, where you're taking what you can, what you have, and try to make it work for you. Fill up that hole. That's okay, you can still run a drill through it. Then we're going to take our glue gun again, we're going to just get it hot. So you kind of need to mark it up a little bit so that it has a place to adhere to. Kind of the raw factor, RA factor, which is kind of like the ability for something here has got a little bit of a divot in it, so we'll go in there and kind of work with it too, just to make sure that it doesn't have a soft spot that's ready to break on it. Because the last thing we want is to put a screw in there and find out that it just ripped the bottom out of this thing. I think that'll get us back to where we need to go. Now, obviously there's going to be some more work that needs to be done. You can see these clips right in here. And what this is, these are the parts of the boot that actually are supposed to hold itself in place here. And what I'll probably do is go get the boot, get it cleaned up, maybe throw it in the dishwasher, and then pull these off. And the way you have to do that is you have to kind of be real careful with these. You have to almost bend them up just ever so slightly so you can relieve the tension. There you have it. That's kind of the way to fix plastic, especially when plastic bezels and stuff like this are no longer available. Good way to fix them and gives them some rigidity and maybe a little bit more life. So anyway, there's you another thumbs up, and thank you for watching.